So, first of all, let me thank you, to the German people and to the Swedish people for the support that you gave to the Ukrainian people. And in your person, your Royal Highness, we are very grateful to the Swedish people. What has changed since the last time I visited this amazing conference, and I am very grateful to General for the invitation. A lot has changed in DC and everywhere in the world, but the good thing is that Ukraine is fighting like hell. And this war has started not 4 years ago. Designated war criminal Putin launched the war against Ukraine practically 12 years ago. And he didn't manage to occupy Ukraine. And he will never, never reach this target. Because of us Ukrainians and because of you. Because we are fighting for ourselves and we are defending you. Let me bring you a slightly different perspective on Russia. Okay? Could you imagine Russia without China? Without North Korea, without Iran, and without another pariahs and dictatorships that support Russia. The economy, which is less than Italy, less than Texas, less than California, with an outdated industry, with a complete war-footing economy, with the kleptocracy, corruption, with those two pedals, which is gas and oil, and deprived of the primary market of the European Union, and with nukes. So, do you believe that this is a real force in current circumstances? So the reason why I'm telling you is that we need to look not at Russia, because the panel is about authoritarianism. It's not about Russia. It is about new divisions in the world, new axis of evil, under the auspices of China. Russia is a ram in China's hand. North Korea is an accomplice to Russia's war against Ukraine. Iran and another totalitarian regimes, they are dreaming of fighting with the democracy, which is they are doing right now, and reshaping the world. The best way to have any kind of, I don't believe in any kind of good relations with Russia. I was born in the Soviet Union. I know Russians, and I met in person everyone, starting with designated war criminal Putin and ending with Lavrov. So I know these bastards. Sorry to say this. But the thing is that Russia will never be a democratic state. But whether we can have some kind of relations, more or less, within the international legal framework with Russia, yes we can, only in one case. If Ukraine wins this war, Ukraine's victory is the path to the restoration of the international order. What's happening in Ukraine right now, sir? Situation is far from being easy. Okay? Russia is making an incremental gains. They are crawling, and the numbers are different. Look, we have around 30 million of Ukrainians. They have 140 million of Russians. He has placed his economy on the war footing, and he hasn't changed his ultimate goal. He wants to occupy an entire Ukraine. He's closely watching what is happening in the free world. There are some, let me put it this way in a diplomatic manner, some changes in the US foreign policy, and he's closely watching and looking at what's happening in Europe. Starting with Orban, who is a Trojan horse of the European Union, and I want to be very clear about that. He's anti-European and anti-Ukrainian. And then with another leaders of the European Union who are too close to Moscow. Look, we are all facing dramatic democratic challenges, both on the far right and on the far left. And he believes the time plays for him, that he can outweigh, and that the European Union and the free world would be contaminated with the war fatigue, And in this way, so Ukraine will be left alone and he can swallow Ukraine. I don't believe in this case scenario. Because once again, you are investing into Ukraine and you're investing into your own national security. It's all about our joint space of survival in the democratic society and in the democratic states. So, Putin didn't reach his targets. He failed to conquer Ukraine in 12 years. Despite the fact that he had the strongest military, nukes, Soviet stockpiles. So he has failed right now. In average, he grabbed around 0.2% of Ukrainian land in the last year, which that's not what he expected. But what is needed right now for Ukraine, we definitely need first financial support, military support, and we need long-range capabilities. And that's actually the only thing that's left similar to the previous year. We are still waiting for Taurus missiles. And I kindly request you, just please understand us. We need deterrence. Putin wants to plunge us into the darkness and to freeze us. And the only way how we can deter this and how we can avoid this case of scenario, we need a long-range capabilities to hit not an arrow, but an archer. If the German government and a real statesperson who is Chancellor Merz delivers on his campaign trail promise to provide Taurus missiles for Ukraine, this would push the US administration to provide Tomahawks for Ukraine. And this would be a clear-cut sign for Putin that there is no way that Putin can conquer Ukraine. So to put it in a nutshell, we are fighting like hell. We can win this war. We win this war. And it all depends on the political will and guts of the free world to help Ukraine to win the war and to save the world from totalitarian regimes. Minister, I owe you, and I will tell you the reason why. Last time I visited Kosovo in my capacity as a foreign minister, I visited Ukrainian troops in K4 mission. We participated in securing Kosovo, and the Ukrainian military did its job. And you know, the reason why I owe you, because I was quite naive thinking that the UN Security Council is to pass the decision to recognize your independence. And we as Ukraine were quite cautious, you know, in recognizing your independence due to the fact that we expected that this could be a copy-paste pattern for Crimea's so-called independence. So I exaggerated the influence of the UN and the rest of the stuff. And let me just co-sponsor the message that you just said. It is important for the European Union and for NATO to help Kosovo. Because what Putin is doing, he is pouring the gasoline into the Balkans. This is a regular Russian narrative. So they want to have another chaos for the European Union and NATO. And these people of dignity of Kosovo, they can't cope without your support. So please help not only Ukraine, but please help Kosovo. And you mentioned NATO, Minister, and it brings me to my next point. Frankly speaking, I am a staunch supporter of NATO since 2008. And in my humble opinion, if Ukraine becomes the NATO member, this would stop the war. That's my reading of the situation. But there is no political will right now on the side of the NATO member states to make Ukraine a full-fledged member of NATO. What is the calculus of Putin? Initially, as I told you in my initial remarks, so he hasn't changed his ultimate goal. So he believes he can outweight, he believes he can play President Trump. That's what actually he did in Anchorage. He believes that he can split the unity between the European Union and the United States. He believes that he has still enormous limited economic potential with the support of China. And he believes that he can wage this war of attrition for an extensive period of time. Whether there is any kind of magic wand or silver bullet, let me put it frankly, no. But there is a plan. whether we can win this war and what needs to be done. We have plenty of tools on the table. The first one is that we need just not only the commitment, but real deliverables in terms of both financial and military support to Ukraine. Let me start with the financial support. We are running out of cash in February, period. And there is only one option to provide the financial support to Ukraine, is to give this called recovery loan with the collateral of the Russian sovereign assets. Because I am a staunch supporter of the confiscation of the Russian assets. But diplomats and financial pundits, they elaborated a quite fancy definition of reparation loan. So, it is important to deliver on this promise as quick as possible. We do understand the repercussions of the Belgian government, and they are legitimate. Because the European Union is to provide a risk sharing for the Belgian government in case if something happens with this kind of collateral. That's normal, that's completely normal. The second issue goes to the military support. As of now, and we are very grateful to the European Union, you pay to Americans, Americans sell weapons, and Ukrainians are fighting with this weapon against Russians. And my message to Americans was very clear, that this is the best ever investment in the US history. Because zero casualties on the American side. Ukrainians degraded severely Russian land forces. Ukrainians compromised Russian intelligence. So Ukrainians are actually fighting against one of the biggest threats for the United States. And Americans are losing practically nothing except cash. But that's not an investment into Ukraine. That's an investment into their own national security. So my second issue is that we desperately need ammo for Ukraine. Long-range capabilities, drones, and additional ammo, everything that military needs. I was asked by some pundits, what do you need more or less? And I addressed the same question to Ukrainian men and women in the uniform. And their answer was very blunt. They said, it seems you are not a very smart guy. We need everything. The third issue is sanctions. You are well aware that yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, President Trump already announced that he is ready to greenlight the bill co-sponsored by bipartisan group, both Dems and Republicans, to impose secondary sanctions on Russia. It is a good move, but the thing is that we need to apply a joint pressure, I mean both Europeans and Americans on Russia, China, and to get along with India. Because what is the lifeline for Russia? Carbs, oil and gas. They are still able of getting revenues from oil and gas. Whether we can deprive Russia of these kind of revenues? Yes, we can. Because look at the European Union. You win yourself of the Russian dependence on oil and gas. We as Ukrainians did it in 2014. Nobody believed me that I can get rid of both Gazprom and Rosatom. But we did it. So the third issue is strong sanctions against Russia and China. My last point is that whether Putin is ready to negotiate. No. And there are different deliberations in the Western world, so let's provide some kind of off-ramp to Putin, an exit strategy. Knowing Russia, I will tell you, if we exert this kind of pressure, Putin will find himself an off-ramp and he will explain to his so-called population why he lost, but in Russian propaganda it would be why he won this war. What means for Ukraine the victory? If we preserve the Ukrainian statehood, this is the victory. And the time will come when we will regain our territory. As we are right now in Berlin, the Berlin Wall felt there is no longer Eastern and Western Germany. So there is one united Germany. And the time will come when Ukraine will restore its territorial integrity. But at this particular period of history, at this particular juncture, of historic juncture, The main objective is to save the Ukrainian nation and to preserve Ukrainian statehood and to protect Ukrainian people with an ironclad security guarantees. Let me bring you my take on the Article 5 and what Russia is doing. They are definitely testing the Article 5 and they are definitely testing the NATO. And this is the very reason why Putin sent its drones to Poland. You're well aware of this. This is the very reason why Putin and his cronies conducted cyber attacks on the entire NATO member states. This is the very reason why a day before yesterday there was an explosion in Poland on the key railway. You're well aware of this incident too. And the idea he has is that first he wants really to provide a kind of sniff test of the response on Article 5 and Article 4. Then he wants to double check what's going to happen, what kind of response the White House will provide. The third one has a military aspect, so he's just scrutinizing the way how you react from both political and military standpoint. So they are checking radars, they are checking your military protocols, they are checking everything what's happening on the ground through the intelligence. So he is aiming at actually both testing NATO and testing Article 5. You're absolutely right, Dr. Person, that we are neither at war nor at peace. But let me call a spade a spade. We are in a new type of warfare. It's slightly different. That's not what we used to during the First and Second World War. It's just different type of war that has a kind of cocktail of economic warfare, military warfare, disinformation, new alliances, cyber warfare, political warfare. Look what's happening on the political landscape everywhere. So it is a new comprehensive type of war, and we need to find a very strong and appropriate responses to this war. And the only language all these totalitarian regimes understands is the language of strength everywhere, starting with the military capabilities and then with the fighting against disinformation. Well, the thing is that I don't have the crystal ball, but we can make the future. If Ukraine wins, Ukraine will have a very successful future in our joint European and NATO family. But in order for Ukraine to win, I go back to your previous question about Americans. We desperately need Americans. It's an indispensable condition for the global and European security. I want to be very blunt and open with you. That's my reading of the situation. One can say that, look, the US is in a completely different stance. Look at the US history. It's a roller coaster. It's still a vibrant democracy, okay? And we still enjoy a bipartisan support of Ukraine's fight against Russia. And we still have we still enjoy a bipartisan support of transatlantic unity in the US Congress. And they are still facing midterm elections, and this will be an issue in their midterm elections. So, there is a different mood in DC and different rules of the game, but European leaders found a way how to get along with Trump. Do not give anyone a chance for this administration to find an excuse to turn its back on Europe. Increase your military expenditures, rearm Europe, make stronger NATO, and make Ukraine to win this war. Do not give up like we do.